Good afternoon, the Laredo Independent School District Board of Trustees Business Support Service Community Meeting. It's Thursday, July 18, 2019. It's 5:31 p.m. Here boardroom. Roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Hector Garcia.
I'm present.
Hector Novela. Here. Ricardo Garza. Here. Jose Valdez. Mrs. Claudia Bali. Dr. Mita Ramirez.
Present.
Mrs. Monica Garcia.
Present.
Would you please rise for Pledge of Allegiance? Ms. Ayala, will you lead us, please?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
You had red, all you need the white, and you had blue, and you had our flag.
Once a tiger.
Always a tiger. Dr. Rios?
Great answer.
Good afternoon, everyone. Item number one, discussion and presentation to ratify the monthly ratify the monthly disbursements for May 2019 at the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for July 2019. Ms. Ayala?
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Good evening, Honorable Board. We begin with item number one. Total cash disbursements were recorded in the amount of $21.1 million, of which $15.6 million were related to payroll costs and its related liabilities, and $5.5 million was due for the payment of goods and services. May I proceed to item two? Discussion and presentation to approve the monthly reports and other updates and or reports. I will begin with the highlights of unaudited financial statements, and this is as of May 31st, 2019. Under gifts and bequests, we have total donations for the month of May, $27,399, of which $9,761 of those donations were conditional, and the difference of $17,638 were unconditional. The fiscal year-to-date donations equal to $276,347. Here, under revenues in the month-to-month comparison, we did record $462,000 more, which is 2% when compared the month of May 2018 to May 2019. Then on the year-to-date comparison, we did record $1.1 million more, or 1% more. Under the tax collection summary, the September to May collections were recorded at $31.2 million, which is 92.58% of the budgeted amount of $33.7 million. Then here at the bottom, we have the October to May collections recorded in the amount of $30.6 million, which is 89% of the adjusted opening levy of $34.4 million. Under the expenditures by object, the month-to-month comparison, we did incur $21 million worth of expenditures, which represents 2% increase, or $479,000 more when compared to May 2018. Then under the fiscal year-to-date comparisons, we did incur less expenditures at about 2% less, in the amount of $3.5 million less.
Quick question, Ms. Ayala. On the change, thank you. On the changes of, if we'll scroll down, because there we go. I'm sorry. On the changes between supplies and materials between May 18 to May 19, does this have to do with the curriculum writing that we did this summer?
That one is not recorded yet.
Oh, okay.
This is as of May. The most of the curriculum writing was done in June.
Okay.
And we just paid in July, so we have to go make
Okay.
adjustments
All right.
to that month.
Thank you.
This is just the May numbers. Yeah.
Here we have those same expenditures, and we have them by function. 62.51% was incurred in instruction and instruction-related services in the amount of $100.9 million, which represents 62% of the total expenditures. followed by plant maintenance and operations in the amount of $17.2 million, or almost 11% of total expenditures. Under other financing sources and uses, the total amount transferred out was $12 million, which is $6.8 million less when compared to the year-to-date in the prior year, in the amount of $5.1 million. Here we have the administrative cost ratio, the standard being at 11.05%. Our amended budget had 7.79%, and the actual amounts to date were at 6.62%. Again, we have the general operating fund. Here we have the summary format. The time lapsed is at 90%. Total revenues earned at 97% of the amount, amended budgeted amount, followed by expenditures at a rate of 92%, which is slightly higher than the time lapsed, but that's because we have open purchase orders in the amount of $3.9 million. In this slide, we have the food service fund. Total revenue 16.6, which represent 81% of the amended budget, a little bit low than the 90%, followed by expenditures and open purchase orders, the total being representing 83% of the amended budget of $20.4 million. The E-rate, very little activity. We have expenditures of 1.1 with open POs, purchase orders of $806,000. This sum represents 76% of the amended budget of $2.5 million. Under the athletics fund, total revenues generated were $160,945, which is 82% of the amended budget of $194,000. Then we have expenditures of $1.3 million with open POs of $221,000, the sum representing 86% of the amended budget of $1.8 million. Under the debt service, total revenues collected $28.7 million, which is 97% of the amended budget of $29.6 million, followed by expenditures of $6.7 million, which is 99% of what we budgeted in the same amount of $6.7 million. Next, we have the special revenue funds. I know there's a lot of them. We do have our federal programs administrator who's here to answer any questions related to Title I programs and special education.
Real quick, and those of you that are here, for the 2019-20 school year, what kind of, can we get some information on what kind of funding we got? Did we get more? Did we get less? Where did we lose? Where did we gain in that area? Did we get more money in special ed? Yeah, that was my concern because they're asking for more. We're putting more kids into the program because they're asking us to do that, but they're not providing the money for it, right?
Yes, in the state allotment. It generates.
In the state, in yours, but not in federal.
the federal side.
So we're going to be covering it with.
Yes, but we are.
Go ahead.
Yes, but we are exceeding the cost requirement in that program.
Okay. Yeah, that was my concern because we're adding, I know that they asked and he needs them because they're telling, you know what, it's grown, but without the funding, but it's coming in from somewhere else. Okay, I understand.
Yes, it is, but it's still not enough for what we need.
Well, what they're asking for, that's the main thing, not for what we need, because what we need, we're going to have to do it, but for what they're requesting us, that we mandated, that's what my concern is.
That was one of the
But we
criticisms.
didn't we talk to Richard Raymond about
Yes.
when we went up there?
And that was one of the criticisms that we had, like, yes, you're imposing all of these mandates, especially the sanctions that were placed against the state of Texas. And because there's sanctions, we still have to be able to follow the law and do whatever. But LISD has always been has always exceeded the amount of funding for special education. We've always done that. But now, because of the mandate to make sure that we encourage more participation in the program if they qualify, that's what's happening. And
So-
you're going to see that as we move forward.
Mr. Chair, question, do we have, and maybe you all have seen it, but a list of all of the state unfunded mandates?
No,
That's what I'm asking about.
Can we get a list of all of the unfunded state mandates?
All the programming requirements are not complete yet. We estimate that maybe perhaps, we're still getting program information.
No,
So-
but what I'm saying is, there are state laws and requirements that are unfunded by the state of Texas, passed in previous legislators, not necessarily just this one. Do we have an ongoing list of unfunded mandates?
We can go back. Ms. Cortez was reminding me an example of the cameras that we were required to have in the special ed classrooms. We were ahead of that game, and we did set aside some funding for that out of local funds.
So, Mike, again,
That
Mike-
that was unfunded.
It was an
And it's still
unfunded
unfunded.
mandate, yes.
Okay,
As
so,
far-
and we're just talking right now about special ed, but I'm certain, you know what I'm talking about, Hector?
Yep.
That there are other requirements within the district that are required by the state of Texas that are unfunded. And right now, we're only talking about special ed, but in
Yes,
other
I would
departments.
go back in
The GT program.
Right,
is
the
another
GT
example.
program is an example, however, we still need to track those expenditures, but yes, that allotment
And-
was repealed.
And I'm not necessarily asking for a total amount right now, Ms. Ayala. What I'm asking is, do we have a list of unfunded mandates?
Do I have one sitting on my desk? No, I will need to go back and check.
Okay, please.
Yes, I will be happy to report that.
Under Title I, based on the planning amount that we have as of now, they did give us about $50,000 more than last year, which is $16.1 million. So we're still pending the final amount, so, we may get some more funds
And that's a year, that's on a yearly, or that's for 2 years,
for 1 year.
for 1 year?
Well, it's the allotment for 1 year, but the grant period pretty much
And out of the
extends 2
$60 million
years.
that we got last year, what did we use?
Last year,
Yes,
with Title I, we pay a lot of the positions.
and put summer school.
A lot of payroll, I would say that maybe 80-some% is payroll.
Okay,
The rest, we provide money for intervention programs, a lot of professional development for our parental involvement or parent and family engagement department. Those are some of the things, how we spend our money. For our homeless, for Sacred Heart. We even give money we're required to give money to the private schools also, based on their enrollment.
Are you happy with this allotment of 16.5 million?
Well, I think it's been increasing, because at one point, if we look back 3 years, in 2018, it was about 15 million, and then in 19, it was 16.4. So this year, we're hoping to get the 16.4 again, but right now, we're at 16.1, so.
And I also want to add that because we know more or less what it is that we're going to be getting, the staff at finance as well as all the campuses work very, very well within the parameters of what we have, because we do combine funding, whether it's local or program or title, so that we can make it work.
yeah, okay. thank
We
you.
also fund the high school, the one-to-one initiative laptop for high school students. It's funded through Title.
Okay.
Do we have an idea of percentage-wise, if you had to get LISD as a whole, and we've studied this program that you have overall for LISD, are we at 100% capacity of using this federal funds and applied to every single need at LISD that is required by this program to fund? In other words, if there's 100 programs out there within this fund, are we funding all of them 100%? Not 100%, but are we funding all 100? In
I
other
think-
words, is there anything out there that we're missing? Have we looked at anything else that we might be missing out there?
Yeah, I think that we are meeting the objective of the grant, which is to help our students.
Good answer.
So a lot of the, and because we do provide these funds to the campuses, a lot of money is spent on extra duty pay for tutorials, professional development for the teachers. We even pay them, extra duty for attending, professional development during the summer.
Stipends
But
for
the
the-
overall picture, if 80%, just throwing it out there, 80 to 85% is just used on teacher
Salaries.
salaries. So we're really only spending 15 to 20%
Yes.
on the actual program itself.
And
Because these
it's-
are the teachers that have to be certified in a certain way so they can service this area.
Yes, and it's not so much on teachers.
It's on
It's
anything.
mainly like our instructional deans.
Yeah.
Get paid. A lot of our CI lab managers at the elementary, library assistants, a lot of the support staff, coordinators, staff development coordinator, professional development coordinator, a lot of those positions are at the district level that we fund with title. A
And
few secondary Title I teachers.
Yes, and I was going to say that a lot of it, the majority goes to the tutorials. And the teachers, the campuses are very good about scheduling. This is how much money I have that's been allocated to me, and this is how I'm going to use it throughout the year. They actually plan it by Saturdays after schools. They know how many teachers they can hire.
Yeah, but I just thinking out loud is if we're spending 85%, that means 15% is going back to the actual program, really. And there's not a way to find funding to at least bring that 85 to 75, where there's 25% going to the schools for more tutorials, because we seem to have to we seem to need more, but the funding's not in this. Well, it is there, but we're using it for something else besides what we need to be using it for.
Based on expenditures, I think that the campuses, based on how much they spend, it looks like they have enough, because they also have other
Sources.
sources such as state compensatory. So they combine, the two, the bilingual, state compensatory, and title. So at this point, I think they do have, because sometimes they leave a little left over. So that tells me
Okay.
that they do have enough.
Okay.
Yes.
$4 million
sorry, just real quick.
and $2.8 million is not a little left over.
Where is that?
Well, on instructional materials allotment,
4.4?
Oh,
well,
that's
it
something
says
else.
available balance, and this is as at the end of May, we have $2.8 million.
That's out to summer school.
That's another
So-
allotment. That's not Title I.
That's not Title I.
I
Yeah,
understand, but my question
Yes.
is this money, the reason they're $2.8 million, is that what we're going to use to pay for summer school? Or did we end up
No.
the month of May with $2.8 million, and why was that not
So
spent?
as of April 30th, the balance was 2.8. We would need to ask Mr. Feliciano Garcia if this balance is going to be
This is May
used
31st.
for the new school year.
This is the end of May. In June, we did a procurement for the
Oh, the
for
textbooks.
The textbooks. So and they're coming in. So we did over $2 million on that. So right now, currently, we only have about 100,000, and we're looking for the new allotment that is coming, hopefully within a 2-week period.
Mr. Garcia, this money comes from the state to purchase the textbooks, is
Yes,
that
that's
correct?
correct.
Okay,
TA.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Any more questions on the other? No? Okay, sorry. Let me go back.
Need to make it a little bigger.
Bigger?
Ask you questions.
Yes,
Am I going a little bit too fast?
there you go.
Okay.
That way we can see.
Next.
So
Item
we're on
number
item 3.
Discussion and presentation on the following budget amendments. 3A, BA number 1920-01, discussion and presentation to approve the general operating fund budget amendment in the amount of $15,270 as a result of transfers between functional expenditure categories from the Board of Trustees discretionary funds. May I proceed to item 4?
Please.
I will call Mr. Mejia to make this presentation.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Rios. Number 4, discussion and presentation to approve the recommendation or selection for the following bids, proposals, or qualifications. Purchases shall be made from appropriations in the adopted amended budget. Item 4A, renewal of RFP number 18-016 for temporary staffing. Evaluation Committee recommends renewing the following 4 vendors: Elite Employment Services, LLC, Rapid Staffing, LLC, RMP Temps, and Staff Force Personnel Services for an estimated amount of $45,000. Item 4B, RFP number 19-017 for student insurance. The Evaluation Committee recommends the Brokerage Store, Inc. for an estimated amount of $405,950.
I'm sorry, can you go back just real quick?
Sir.
Explain to me again why we need the temp services?
The temps, pretty much what we're using is the textbooks department. Is about the only one that uses it at the moment of the summer.
No,
Summer,
it's my-
the stack and all that?
No, to my understanding, during operations meeting, Mr. Velasquez did explain that they use them for painting or stuff like that. They use them for a 2-week period and so on and so forth.
But it's not for an extended period
Not
of
yet.
time, right?
That's why the amount is small.
I know we haven't, Mr. Velasquez, he hasn't used the painting this year or last year.
Behind you.
So,
We haven't used painters in the last few
But
months.
it was used as an example, like
but we
that
have
is
we have
what,
the
like,
opportunity
2-week
in
period
case
or
it's
whatever.
necessary. Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Noyola?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mejia, under 4 Bravo, is there a limit on the number of athletes that can be insured?
I don't believe so, sir.
Unlimited? It's unlimited.
And does it include pre-existing conditions?
I believe it does. We'll need-
That would be important.
Yes. I have to go back to the specs.
Mr. Mora, do you have the answer to that?
Good evening, Victor Mora, Director of Safety. To answer the question on, does it include pre-existing conditions? I would have to check, Dr. Ramirez.
Well, and my concern is if an individual had a concussion in the previous year and we're going to insure him again the following year, I want to make sure that the insurance picks him up.
Yes, ma'am, we will verify that.
Okay, thank you.
And we've added a couple of other safeguards along the way. Remember the EKG? Right?
I think all that information should be compiled before it comes to us, that we know an answer to a simple question.
Okay.
Unlimited number of athletes.
All right, next.
We're on 4C, please.
Well, before we go on 4B, are we going to get that information before we approve the item?
Next
Can
week.
we
Yes.
get it for Tuesday?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Okay, thank
Of
you.
course.
So then the trustees will make a determination as to whether or not to go with this bid then?
Well, we'd like
If
to
it
No, I
doesn't-
think the biggest, I don't know about everybody else, but I think it's okay. We just want to make sure what it has.
What is in the package?
Yeah, in the package, just telling us, okay, approve this, but, and then when somebody gets hurt, then, oh, no, it didn't cover that. We need to know what the whole package has.
Yes.
It should be explained to us, and it's
And
not.
if what is standard and what is
Right,
not standard
right.
in
Is
our
there
school
little-
districts in the state of
Is
Texas?
there a little more that we have to do for pre-existing
Well,
and not? just
and the
things-
number of students that can be covered, does this cover the cheerleaders and the band and
Yes,
athletes?
it covers
or is
cheerleaders, band, athletes, anyone who has any physical activity, if I'm
Right.
correct.
And I think Mr.
You
Moore
are-
brought it up in the presentation, it covers everybody that's under it. That he did say that, but just check that other little thing that,
Yeah.
until you said that.
I don't know if it's, I just wanted to add a note. I don't know if it's a possibility that, I mean, you're adding the purpose here for what it's for, but can you add as a background as far as, for our, so we don't have to be asking these questions, and maybe, reading the background and what it's specifically about, what it covers, or, description of what it is.
A little.
Yeah, a little bit. in the
Under the,
bottom.
under the purpose,
So we can, probably.
because this is only for athletes, and so what happens to the others? And is that a separate? Okay,
Thank you.
Extracurricular activities.
yeah, thank you.
4C,
Item 4C, multiple cooperative contracts. See attached A for library books, media, and instructional materials. The Evaluation Committee recommends the following 17 vendors from multiple cooperatives: Bound to Stay Bound, Capstone, Cengage Learning, Inc., Davidson Titles, Inc., SQ and Associates, Follett School Solutions, Gumdrop Books, Junior Library Guild, Lakeshore Learning, Macklin Educational Resources, Overlook Books, Permabound, Rainbow Book Company, Saddleback, Scholastic Library Publishing, the Library Store, and the Reading Warehouse for an estimated amount of $280,000. Item 4D, by Board Co-op Contract Number 573-18, Accelerated Reader, Star Reading, Web Hosting, and Data Integration Licenses. The Evaluation Committee recommends Renaissance Learning, Inc. for an estimated amount of $159,345. Item 4E, RFP number 19-016, Third-Party Administrator. The Evaluation Committee recommends National Plan Administrators for an estimated amount of $246,120.
Quick question, why do we go from 41,308 to almost $200,000 more?
That's for a 5-year period, sir.
It's a 5-year
So,
period?
yes, the annual amount will be $49,224 for 12 months. The district will contribute $28,224, and the employee contributes $21,000.
Okay, thank you.
And that would help us in the description, Ms. Ayala, if you can add, like, it's a 5-year contract, 5-year.
It does. It does say here on the sign on the time period, in effect for a
Yeah.
period of 5 years,
Okay.
and on the other side, it
It says
says,
2 additional years only.
beginning
Where?
with an option to extend for.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. The option, okay, thank you.
and the historical is usually for 1 year.
Yes.
If it's historically for 1, where are we doing
Well,
5?
they just give you a comparison, correct?
Yes, sir. We are recommending a 5-year contract. If you don't want us, if you just want to approve it on a year per year, we can.
If we do a 5-year contract, are they giving us any kind of lock-in rate?
Yes.
For the 5 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That might be
And the savings.
a savings, yeah.
4F?
4F, RFP number 19-020, General Welding Repair and Sheet Metal Fabrication Services. The Evaluation Committee recommends Moises Casillas for an estimated amount of $200,000.
Mr. Velasquez, on this one, he was the only one that turned it a bit, or what?
There was actually 2 vendors, so it was 1 more.
Okay, so why are we adding more? Like, what if he's not available, then we have to wait a long time? And then by the time this one comes in, like, why don't we have multiple, vendors that we can use versus to only one on this one?
In this particular situation, the committee recommended 1 because of the pricing. The second one was higher up, so,
But is this just for, allocated only for one job?
no, it's.
No.
This is for district-wide, work that we might require during the year. In this particular year, we have some projects on the CIP, so that's why we have estimated $200,000.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that whenever we go out for a job, even if it's a small job, you go out for bid regardless.
Yes, in this case, it's just whatever, in other words,
So
like,
only he can bid on that job if it has to do with welding.
yeah, and it's actually just to give us estimates, and we will go with that company. That was, I guess, the purpose of the RFP. There's some other, especially with engineers, we have a pool of firms, and we kind
But
of
how
go
are
with
we
different-
gonna know, what are we gonna need as far as welding on the whole year? I mean, why would we go out for an RFP for welding for $200,000 when, at the end of the day, we're gonna end up going for a bid again when we have a job going on? Like,
Well,
why
we
would we
don't-
lock ourselves up to one vendor on a $200,000 price versus to,
Yes.
having multiple people that you can use? Like, I
Well,
don't
the
understand.
purpose of this particular RFP is,
In the pool, there's not that many people in the pool, for one. We talked about that the other day.
Right.
And you want to get yourself, with somebody that, you know what, is way below everybody else. Plus, what we talked about the other day, we want to try to get our students involved in doing welding ourselves. So having one, I think it's ideal, and getting the kid from Tigaroa, and also, well, eventually when Nixon gets there, get them involved in doing projects as part of the what they call the internship. The internship. It's a done deal. If you don't do this, then you go out for bids. Then your budget, you can go from $200,000 to $500,000 real fast if you control a set number. I think that's
So
what we're doing.
and then the whole year for welding, we can only use 200,000?
No,
Bottom line.
we can always come back and we can always come. It's only a PO.
It's just an open PO for $200,000.
But these
Okay,
are
but
based
hang
on the
I get
projects
it.
that have already been listed in the
All-
capital improvement plan.
Everything that we have here, we can always come back and amend it to open it up, like we do with tires and everything else. This is just a set budget for now, but if we get to a point that they fit it, then we find money and then add it onto it.
Can you,
if we need to. Right.
no, can you use that as an example with the two fences that were knocked down by drunk drivers at Nixon?
Yeah.
Yes, I was about to say that, like, the purpose of these RFPs, whether if it's electrical services or welding services, is basically to have, a resource available in case our staff can do that particular work. But, it might vary during the year, and we
But
want
also,
to have
Angel, I mean, you already know beforehand that this person is going to charge you so much per hour, and that's why he was selected, because he was
That is
one of the
correct.
lowest. Is that a fact?
That's part of the evaluation. I mean, we ask them to quote on the most common things, work per hour, and, at times we give them like a practical example so they can quote, and then we compare, the companies that bid, and we make a selection. And
I'm going to ask the $1 million question. Is he going to build Mr. Noyola's
fence,
fence finally?
that's,
I asked that,
Hey, I put it to you this way,
We waited
200,000 won't cover a block of it.
right. And actually,
30
next
feet.
month, we're planning to bring some designs, so you can take a look at, the different things that we can do with the fence. But yes, that can be part of the work that is included on this RFP.
and we did ask that during committee. Remember, sir? Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Velasquez.
Thank you.
Okay.
Item 4G, Region 1 Child Nutrition Program, so South Texas Co-op Contract RFP number 16-05-17 for bread and tortilla products. Evaluation Committee recommends Flowers Baking Company and Exquisita Tortillas for an estimated amount of $328,000.
A lot of tortillas.
Yep.
Item 4H, Region 1 Child Nutrition Program, South Texas Co-op, contract number RFP 19-agency-000038, United States Department of Agriculture Processed Foods. Evaluation Committee recommends the following 13 vendors: Alpha Foods Company, Genio Turkey Store/Pound, JTM Provision Company, MCI Foods, Nardone Brothers Baking, National Foods LTD, Tyson Prepared Foods, Inc., Uno Foods, Inc., Rodriguez Foods LTD, Integrated Foods, Pilgrim's Pride, Schwann's, and Tasty Brands for an estimated amount of $1.7 million.
Next.
Item 4I, Region 1 Child Nutrition Program, South Texas Co-op, contract number RFP 20-agency-000070 for janitorial supplies, paper and plastic products. Evaluation Committee recommends the following 6 vendors: Devon Distributing and Packaging.
We saw those. You don't have to read them.
Okay.
Next.
National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance, NCPA RFP number 17-18, contract 02-56 for paint and supplies. Evaluation Committee recommends Sherwin-Williams for an estimated amount of $75,000.
Did we finish our painting for this summer? Real quick off the.
We are still in the process of finishing, the scope of work that we presented previously, but yes, everything has been done in-house. We haven't finished, but, we are in the process of finishing.
We're on schedule.
On schedule?
Yes, on schedule, still.
Good.
Item 4K, RFP number 18-036, the second distribution for electronic items and computer equipment recycling. The Evaluation Committee recommends Asset Recycling Company of America, LLDBA Arcoa, for the sale of $32,000. Item 4L, Region 1 Child Nutrition Program, South Texas Co-op, Contract RFP number 19-Agency-000051 for dairy and juice products. The Evaluation Committee recommends Hygeia Oak Farms Dairy for an estimated amount of $2.8 million. Region 1 Child Nutrition Program, South Texas Co-op, Contract RFP-16-Agency-000050 for commercial products. Evaluation Committee recommends Smart Foods for Schools and Schreiber International Foods for an estimated amount of $600,000. Region 1 Child Nutrition Program, South Texas Co-op, Contract RFP number 19-Agency-000049 for food items. Evaluation Committee recommends Labatt Food Service, LLC, for an estimated amount of $3.6 million.
Thank you. Tax refunds, you're recommending those?
Yes, sir, we recommend approval.
Dr. Rios?
Item number 6, discussion and presentation of the District Employee Handbook for the 2019-2020 school year as presented. Ms. Ramirez talked about this handbook at the committee meeting that we had, and you have a copy right there, I believe, at your desk, but I think it was also sent prior to the trustees so that they could look at it, and you did say that there was a few minor changes.
Yes, so, yes, Dr. Rios, thank you. Good evening, board members. You received in your board update, I believe last week, a copy of a draft. This is closer to the final draft that we'll be bringing on Tuesday for your approval, and there are several areas that were added, specifically in the section for grievances, the section for employee standard of conduct, and employee misconduct. So if you have any questions regarding this or any feedback, if you'd be more than happy to take that so that we can adjust it before the last approval.
And this handbook will be explained during the leadership summit.
Did you add on, or did you clean up the area of employees' loans and all that we talked about?
I did. We did place a statement on there.
Thank you.
Okay, if it's in there, it's fine.
It's in there. On page 85, we added a statement that states, and we couldn't find in other handbooks that had anything like that, so we added, employees should refrain from engaging in personal financial transactions between coworkers, subordinates, or supervisors, such as the lending of money for personal use.
Okay,
So I've asked Mr. Perez to look at that as well, and if we need to elaborate a little bit more on that, we can. Okay.
May I
Thank you.
proceed, Mr.
Yes.
Garcia? Item number 7, discussion and presentation on the cooperative working agreement between the Laredo Independent School District and Serving Children and Adults in Need SCAN at no cost to the district. This is an agreement that we've had for quite a few years, and I believe, Ms. Martin, oh yeah, hello, you're right there. I was looking for you over here.
Maggie?
The SCAN always have different services, so we're going to be bringing several agreements or MOUs, and it depends on their funding that we service either the homebound kids, the drug abuse programs. They have different programs, and since their funding comes from different sources, we will bring several, because we asked if we could have one agreement to include all programs, and they can't because of their funding. So this is one of them, so we'll bring in some more for SCAN.
As time approaches for each one.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. May I proceed, Mr. Garcia? Item number 8, discussion and presentation on the partnership agreement between the Laredo Independent School District and Communities and Schools at an estimated cost of $206,000. Ms. Martinez?
Yes, on this agreement, we have All our secondary schools have signed an agreement with Communities in Schools, and we have several elementaries, about 4 elementaries. Now, we just got recently an email standing from our Director of Communities in Schools stating that they got extra funding where they will pay part of the agreement, part of the salary, and the elementaries come up with the other part of the salary. So we have encountered several schools. The only one that we were aware that wanted to have the program and has the money is Heights Elementary. However, they don't have a space for the caseworker. So we have contacted Ms. Rodriguez to see what other options we can have to do it at Heights. Other elementary campuses, we're also waiting for some of the new principals, because I know we are aware that if they have the Head Start program, they get some extra funding, and if they can have that funding to pay for that program, if they want it in their campus, then we will go with that partnership, and we will have to bring a revised agreement if that's the case, because they still have to write to the state to approve.
Ms. Martinez, our share will be 206,000.
Yeah, that's going to be our share with Communities in Schools.
That's a más o menos.
That's for about that's the total for all the schools that we have so far.
Can you tell me in a short paragraph, what is it that they do for LISD?
Communities in Schools provide a lot of programs for the certain at-risk kids. They have a list of at-risk kids, and they help them with tutorials. They help them in their school. They help them with community services, like if they need an extra service and we don't provide at the schools, they refer them to an agency outside, or they bring the agency inside the school. They also help us with at the high schools. They help us a lot with kids that cannot afford the cap and gowns. They pay for the cap and gowns. They
act as liaisons between, for example, the food bank. They act as liaisons between the family. If there's a need within the family to support the student while they're at school, to send, if they need backpack service for the home with food for the evening because the household doesn't have food at night. They do a lot more of the social work, and the person is there to provide the on-campus support.
They're the connection, they're the liaison.
Do we have presence the 180 days out of the year at each high school?
Yes, sir. Yeah. We do have a caseworker. They're called caseworkers at every high school.
They hire somebody. I've seen the program because I've encouraged the principals within my school, my area, to try to get their schools involved in it, because I've seen what it does to the kids. When we were at Alexander, we had them in our school, and they really went beyond any group that we had helping our kids.
Yes,
I think it's an unbelievable program. That's why I encourage. I know we got Milton in this year. We have Alaska within my area.
Yes.
And it helps. It really
Ms. Martinez.
Yes, ma'am.
And did you say that they pay for the cap and gowns for students that are...
They're able to find monies for kids who cannot afford the cap and gowns, or they cannot afford, let's say, sometimes their yearbook or whatever they want. Sometimes they go out to the community and find people to help the kids.
Because this past year, a lot of the high schools were asking for discretionary funds because they needed to pay for some of the cap and gowns
for additional
students.
Because remember, on the CIS program, they have only certain kids, like only if you are part of the CIS program, if you're qualified under their their criteria to be at risk, to have certain things, you qualify, and they have that caseload only, so they can assist those kids that are under their caseload. So there might be other kids that do not qualify for CIS, so then they get other people to help those kids that cannot qualify.
How much does the cap and gown cost?
It's about $49 to $65. It depends on the quality and the purchase on that.
Will you check Memorial? I know was going to be, wanted the CIS, and they were short some funds, and I committed to her yesterday to use some of the discretionary funds in my account to help support Memorial.
Yes, I think Memorial is already part of this agreement.
Yeah, but she still needed some money, so I spoke to her yesterday.
We will follow with Ms. Josie because the discretionary funds got through Ms. Josie.
She
knows. We'll continue with it.
I spoke to her today about it, and so, but when we get to the point of payment in the fall, so that you're
yes,
aware.
We'll follow up with that.
Yeah.
Also be aware that CIS has a caseworker per school that we agree with, and they're very supportive. When we have a caseworker who's not doing what they're supposed to be doing and they're not helping our campuses, we communicate very well with their directors and their supervisors, and right away they help us out.
Ms. Martinez, who hires the caseworkers? The CIS, or is it a joint effort?
Okay. I'm Mrs.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board and Dr. Rios and members. Rosina Silva for the record. If they're going to be hiring someone, they will invite the school principal and maybe a committee to sit in on the interview. Or sometimes, Dr. Ramirez, they've had to transfer, let's say, a person because let's say a school didn't select that person, they'll move them over. Now, as I was walking in communities and schools, if we have them, for example, at a middle school, they will help the entire family, elementary, middle, and high. So it's, it's not only helping the child in that campus, but they will help the entire family for uniforms, for food, for any, it's a great
services.
Great services for the investment when you're dealing with, you've got a degreed individual social worker on staff.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
May I proceed?
Next.
Item number 9, discussion and update on the schematic design options for Caguas Elementary School, including possible consolidation with Ligarde Elementary School.
Thank you, Dr. Rios. As you might recall, we discussed this item in detail at the last operations meeting. So we are here. I invited Mr. Guillermo Cavazos just in case you have additional questions. We're going to be, it is my understanding that this particular item is, as of right now, is still on the regular meeting agenda for approval in the sense that we need to know if the board wants to pursue the consolidation or not. And the purpose of this presentation basically is just to kind of remind everybody of, the features of this potential unified campus. And I would like for Mr. Cavazos just to answer any questions that you might have at this point. For us, it's feasible. I know that during the meeting, there was a number of different topics that were discussed, not only about the actual construction, but about different things about campuses and the culture and different things that both principals brought up to the table. But we're here to answer questions about design and construction and the feasibility of that.
And I think, I think that, thank you very much for putting this together, because we needed something like this so we're able to go back to the neighborhoods and tell them this is what we're considering. Okay. And so we can have input from there, because there's one group saying, they like the idea, and there's other ones that have concerns about it. I know the board member to that area still has concerns about it, and we want to make sure that whatever we do is something that the neighbors want. Sometimes it depends how you look at it, because I want the school there because I can walk to it, but that's not a good enough reason. But if it's something that's going to benefit the students as a whole, then it's a good. But we still, and I'm glad we have this. We need to show them this is what we're looking at. How big is the school going to be? I know Dr. Ramirez has concerns of, is it going to be too big? I think this is going to be a diamond in the south, but I'm still not sure, because I heard that the fifth grader with the design of it needs to be worked on too. So once we can get all that straightened out, so we have a presentation, so we can go into the neighborhood, or we can go into the school and have input from them before we make a final decision on this piece.
So would you like a timeline so that we could say, by this time, this presentation will be ready? I thought I did that. This presentation will be ready and it's ready to speak to the community?
Because we want to be able to do this. We don't want to hold back on this project, because if we do, then it just yeah. We want to make sure that once it's ready, right when school starts, we want to be able to do that and make presentations to them and say this.
I mean, are we saying to hold? Right now, we're just trying.
We want to see the presentation, because I know there's things.
I know, but we need to put a natural timeline to it, because if not, we're going to be.
Agree.
I honestly think that, we need to have all stakeholders, meaning not only the community as, the parents and the impact on the parents that it's going to have. But we also need to have directors of several departments that are going to be impacted by the consolidation itself, because, you know, we need to talk, one, very in-depth into transportation, and we need to talk about very in-depth into where we're going to move the kids for the time being while we, you know, because we cannot disrupt instruction time. You know, academically, we need to be very sure, you know, that we already have a place to move our kids, you know, and more so the testing end of things is very important. And we have to weigh all those options. Right. And that's exactly
But
what.
regardless if we're separating or it's one school, we're going to move the kids anyway.
Yes.
So that it doesn't play into this. That it does play into it. We're going to have to move them anyway, and we have a sort of a plan on what we're going to do, but that's the other animal that we haven't figured that out yet.
The next question I would have, and again, I'm late to this discussion, but the designs are beautiful, Mr. Cavazos. I have not seen designs on the separate schools, so Mr. Velasquez, may I get a copy of those as well? I think you have them. I think the other board members have seen them, right?
We presented an schematic design for Caguas by itself, yes.
And, okay, so
Mr. Cavazos worked on
if
that
you could share those with me, I'd appreciate it. You can send them to me electronically if you want to. I mean, it doesn't matter.
It's in the booklet that you have.
It's in here as well?
Yes, the Caguas one. It says 650 students, which was the original scope.
Yeah.
Now, Ligarde is a different story. We're not under contract for that site, so
yeah, we have it. That's not even on the drawing board yet.
Because Ligarde was in phase 2.
Right, that's in another phase.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Right,
I got it now. Thank you.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
so during our operations meeting, you know, several of my colleagues did raise several questions, and a lot of the questions were, and before we begin the process of actually studying and viewing, you know, the excellent work, Mr. Cavazos, and I want to commend you for that. The excellent work that you have been doing, because we've been going back and forth and trying to figure out, you know, an effective and, you know, productive and first and foremost looking at the academic side of the impact it's going to have for our students. I honestly think that you know, we have an assistant superintendent that is in charge of curriculum and instruction, and can you just, for the record, give us your expert advice if you think academically this is something that can be done, or is this something that you foresee that it's going to impact your students? And the reason that I'm asking these questions is because Dr. Ramirez, during our operations meeting, did mention a lot of things that can probably impact our students, you know, and I'm pretty sure that you can probably give us your expert advice at this.
Dr. Gerardo Cruz, for the record, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. As discussed at the last committee meeting, certainly there's many factors that we have to take into consideration. We need to ensure that if this does happen, that adequate staffing is given to the campuses. However, you know, there is research out there that smaller is better. These schools are already high-performing, and this may cause, of course, a disruption into the instructional setting. However, as long as certain parameters are met in terms of making sure that we have adequate staff,
So in your
making
expert
sure
advice, you're telling me that it's best if we don't.
Right. And
there's pros and cons as long as the staffing instructional needs are met fully.
And just for the record, UISD has several schools that have way more students than your elementary is going to have.
Oh, and
And they're high ribbon schools.
I
I know
understand
smaller is better, but expensive is better too. And cross. And whatever you all want to do, but if the garden is not built now, it's not going to be built for another 3 years, because it's not even programmed for another 3 years. So just to keep that in mind, I think we have the teachers to do it, it's the administration to do it. It's how we staff it, and how good we are, and I think we have an excellent staff to bring it to another level.
So,
But
in our discussion, and I guess the question I had was, are we consolidating schools because we think we're going to save money, or are we consolidating schools because it's the best thing for students?
I think we're consolidating schools because it's the best thing for the students. The school that they want to build is not big enough, the area is not going to be big enough for the school that they want to be built, right. And in this case,
Talking about
you're building, yeah.
Okay.
The other one. It's in a floodplain, it's in the bottom part of it, and we've had problems with it. That's the biggest.
To add money to it, in my mind, would be, the functionality is not going to be there because of the limited scope
Space.
or the size of the area where it's
That's
at.
why I
You're
moved.
still
Turn on
going
your
to have
mic.
the big traffic problems, you're still going to
Turn on your mic.
have the issues with all of the,
Turn on
Your mic.
You're still going to have the problems with traffic in that area. It's small, the kids don't have a place to run around outside. We have an opportunity here because right next to Caguas is that big football field in there that later on we can set up so that there's people can just explore the outdoors, obviously. But over here, it's one of those things where, you know, it's not a catch-22 in my mind. I think I think we should consolidate, but I'm thinking in the long term, if we add the money in there, it's sort of like adding all this money to the same, and we're still going to have the same issues. The whole idea of renovation is to make it simpler and designing it so that we can have more functionality and have those schools better equipped to do something. Over here, because it's so tight in that area, I'm not sure that we're going to accomplish that.
Well, my only concern, and again, and I, bear with me, but from an academic standpoint and, teaching for the last almost 40 years, we all, I think, can attest and agree to our own experiences that the classroom size matters, absolutely, but so does school size. And when you're doubling up on the number of fifth graders and you double the number of fourth graders, it's not a secret that 20% of your school is going to be the 20% that is the leadership of your school. So now instead of having 20% at one campus being leadership and 20% at another campus being leadership, now you're going to reduce that leadership, but within your student body to 20%. It's natural. It's human instinct. It's the way we act as human beings. So you're going to limit the number of students that actually take part in leadership opportunities within their own campus. The same with sports, the same with all other extracurricular activities, because there will be a limit to the number of students that are going to participate.
Okay, now,
So-
that same thought, that's happening when they get to the middle school and high school anyway.
Yeah, but do you
So-
want to
so-
limit it? Do you
well-
want to limit it now when they're still
Well,
in third and fourth grade
I think we
and
had
not
that-
give them a chance?
I think we had that conversation. I think Dr. Moreno was actually here when we actually had that conversation. And that conversation is, for pre-kinder to fifth grade, we should be concentrating on reading, writing, math, and especially on that. Leadership, yes, but they need to learn how to read, write, and math till they get to the middle school. We're not bringing them over here, we're going to have more bigger clubs, but
I don't
the
think it's...
class size are not going to change. The way that we design the school is very important on the fourth, fifth graders away from, I agree with that. But I think it's something that they could take pride in. And we have to not look at the dead elephant or the elephant in the room that the South is shrinking.
I don't...
And even if we do, even if we remove boundaries, that area is shrinking.
So
having a school that can we're building it to that size and hoping that if it grows, we can still maintain them in the school.
Right.
But if it keeps shrinking to the point, then now what?
So in looking at the most recent report that came out of the State Demographer's Office, if you look at the changes in the Hispanic community within the next 2030 to 2050, the expectation is that by 2050, the Hispanic community in the state of Texas is going to grow 61%.
Right.
Within the next 20 years, they're expecting almost a 40% growth.
Right.
They're also predicting that that growth is going to be along the border region and in Houston, Texas. Not everybody's going to go to school at UISD. They're gonna come. People are coming back to LISD now, and we're seeing the growth in our schools.
I agree with you, but if you actually go to that area, and we've said it, there's no property for growth. There really isn't. So
As it is, we are having a very difficult time to identify a site for Cigarroa Middle School, and we're still stuck there. We haven't been able to find or identify a location that we can use
To build a school.
To build Cigarron Middle School, and I
With that
understand that.
apartment complex.
But also, I want to mention this, that we are talking about 1,300 capacity for
kids?
students in the school, right?
What's the actual number?
But, I mean, I don't want to cross over the perception that we're going to have 1,300 students, because that is a perception of what, you know, the people are thinking, because the people are thinking, okay, they're seeing this number when it's presented here, and it says 1,300 students, but we need to, you know, start letting them know that it's not the 1,300, because I guess that number is starting to scare not only our Ligarde principal, but it's also scaring our Caguas principal.
Well, then we need to find principals that are not scared.
No, I don't
No, and I'm
think
not
it's
saying,
that.
I'm not saying it to that.
I know that, but
I have a question for Dr. Cruz. Right now, you were asked if you favor one campus versus two campus, and your opinion was two campuses or one?
Well, from an academic standpoint, instructional setting standpoint, considering the social emotional development of our youngsters, making it, I guess, more family-oriented, having our students to feel more ownership, per se, especially at that age. Smaller is always better.
Sure.
But certainly, if we go into this, we need to make sure that adequate staffing is considered. And of course, the inner workings of the campus, how it is designed, making sure that we have the younger kids with the younger kids, internal traffic as well as outside traffic.
This is a very important decision that the board will undertake, and I believe that we need time to see all the pluses and negatives, and in order for us to make an intelligent decision about which way we're going to go.
Dr. Rios, you also are a curriculum specialist.
Right. One of the concerns that we brought and we discussed, that if students were going to be moved, for them to be moved earlier than January, because testing, because Mr. Velasquez said that some of the moves were going to happen.
No, that was Mr. Resendez. Is he in the audience?
No, remember when Mr. Velasquez was talking about that we would start as early as January? And one of the things that does happen, it's online testing in January for some of the particular tests. So I was saying, well, that's why I asked, what is the timeline? Because if we're going to move students, you really have to start thinking about their little ones, all the way from pre-K 3 to fifth graders, which would be 10-year-olds. We would have to consider what is going to happen, who's going to get tested, who's going to get moved. And I know that you said that you could work around that.
I'm curious to know where you're moving them and why you're moving them in January.
Well, no, what we tried to say during the meeting is that if we get an approval, let's say this month, for either consolidation or separate campuses, we can immediately complete construction documents, take them to our contractor for pricing, and we could be ready as soon as January. Now, we can wait, we can wait for whatever else to happen, especially if the board decides to go with this consolidation plan. We can always, work on the areas that are on the field, and so for us, the phasing out of the project is not a problem. We can wait for testing. The construction aspect, we're going to figure it out. I guess the question here is more.
Let me ask a real quick question, because I wasn't at that meeting. I have to go to another one. Say we don't consolidate, which it's still up in the air, because we're still pros and cons to that. But we're still building Caguas.
That is correct.
So we're moving. Are we moving Caguas in January? That's what you're telling me. In January, we're ready to move Caguas.
We could be ready as soon as January.
If we don't consolidate, we're moving Caguas. If we consolidate, we're moving Caguas. So it's still being moved.
We get
So
practice.
principal and everybody needs to get, hey, it's part of it. That's what you signed up for.
That's the reality.
Yes.
Right, that's what you signed up for.
Exactly.
I don't think we should be moving, doing testing. I agree with you 100%.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't even know where we're moving them, because, real quick, the plan was to move them from there to the middle school. We still haven't even found property to build.
For Caguas, working Caguas by itself, we had a plan of action. Number one, we would keep the ECC operational. Then we would move some of the kids to the nearby campuses. And we had now, I know that Mr. Resendez expressed the concern of having students in different locations. Now, we're looking at the standpoint of, spending on portables that maybe is not necessary. But we had a plan of action for the single campus. Now, this represents a different challenge, but again, it's up to the board to
The
decide.
thing that we need to make up our mind is because we're going to do double work right now. You're going to have to redo all your paperwork. If we decide to make it, it's a big deal. It's a big difference. Either we don't consolidate or consolidate. The paperwork is two totally different animals that you need to prepare right now. All the documentation is two totally different animals.
The voting for is, it's gonna happen is for we consolidate or we don't.
That's right, that's
Okay?
right, right now.
But, yes, and I understand that.
That's the main decision.
That's the main decision, but also there's other things we need to consider, that's gonna fall after that, because, once we knock on one apple, all of them are gonna start, knocking down. And then that is my concern pushing forward, because once we decide to consolidate, then, yeah, everything starts like, it's moving. It's a moving machine. So, al momento de que, okay, we're going to have, per se, we staff 1,100 students in this huge building. I don't want to later have to have issues that, we cannot have this X amount of teachers because it doesn't fall into the number of students that are going to be there. We're going to have to commit to the support.
Of course. Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying, because it happens in the past.
But let me remind you on everybody that was here, the last bond election, that we had, there was a lot of this same talk about displacement and the effect on kids. I think we're not taking into consideration the resiliency that all of this has, and the people that we surrounded ourselves over here at LaredoISD. So, yeah, when Dr. Cruz was at Nixon, the portable buildings itself, if you could imagine that kids had to be displaced and go to portable buildings, and they weren't going to really appreciate their high school years because they were in portable buildings, that presented a challenge from out of this world for this gentleman. And kids still responded. The parents and everybody responded. We had local meetings with everybody, and we discussed where there's going to be displacement whether we like it or not, right? So there's going to be an adjustment that has to be made by kids whether we like it or not. So we can't put the brakes on this. And what we talked about, I like the fact that we put a timeline between now and next Thursday to say yay, nay. I like it. Right now we're having a discussion. So Tuesday. If we have this discussion between now and then,
It'll be better just to come and we already know we're voting.
yeah, because the displacement is going to happen and the interruption is going to happen. How well we react to it is going to be the key. And that's just going to be how well prepared we are for that is going to be the key.
I have one more concern.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Rios, and maybe my numbers are incorrect, but currently we had 740 students at one school and close to 550 at another. Is that correct?
The number that you see right there, that 1,300, that's the current number. At the beginning of the year, there's more kids. But then they start.
The amount of students in Ligarde and the amount of students.
Well, here's the principal. How many kids did you have right now? 510. And is that the project? What was the highest number you had last year?
Last year we had about 580.
Okay, and Ms. Contreras, how many do you have right now? Okay, the other concern not concern, but that was brought up at that time was transportation, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and
It's almost it's almost crazy to think that if you switch them and get all like 500 kids over here, they'd fit better at Ligarde. Because Ligarde by square footage alone doesn't have enough room.
And another concern we did speak about during the operations meeting, unfortunately you weren't here with us, Mr. Garcia, we did speak about transportation, which was a big issue, because as it is, a lot of the kids, are walkers, and for them to walk from over there over here, Mr. Rangel did explain to us that it doesn't fall in the 2-mile radius. And that.
But Mr. Rangel also is the direction for the board saying, you know what, we're going to do it from 2 miles to 1 mile for that area.
Yes, and I understand
so
that.
That's a simple solution.
I understand that. But the thing about it is that for how long are we going to eat up that
Subsidize.
cost? Because we are not going to get money back from TEA.
The subsidizing
I mean,
of
how
that
much time
will
is-
eat
are
into
we gonna-
whatever profits we
Yeah.
think we might make by building
But
one
we
school.
have to figure on that cost, the walkers, again.
And it's something
I mean,
that,
I'm just putting
it's
all this
something that
out.
we have, yeah, I know you point, it's a good thing to point out, but for a parent, if you're a parent and you're a parent of 3 kids, if you can have the school in front of your house, great, because all you have to do is walk across. All right? So how about that parent that lives 10 blocks away? Well, you know what? They still have to get to school one way or another. Either walk or take the bus. So that's part of, you got to get your kid to school one way or another. So if they're saying, well, now I have it's 7 blocks away. Really? That to me is not an issue. The issue, there's the school, we get to get to school.
Okay, and I
It's
understand
not
that.
because it make it easier,
I understand
because the
that,
parent,
but-
that to me, I throw it out because I wouldn't even listen to that.
Okay.
And what Ricky said is, when we built Nixon, we got a lot of calls. Oh, where are we going to put the kids? And you know, it's not fair. It's junior year and their senior year. And so, look, if you're a freshman, don't matter because you're going to graduate in a brand new school. The rest of you, you're going to be under construction for 3 years.
But my thing is, listen, I mean, okay, I understand that it's the direction
It
of
is
the
what it
board,
is.
it's the direction of the board to push the support out into giving them the transportation. I already understood that part, and I understand it very well. My thing is the transportation department going to be ready to transport 700 students into the school?
He has a year to do it. He doesn't.
When?
I mean, you have a year to pick
Give me the date.
Good answer.
How quickly are we buying buses?
You have
If
3
it's,
years to figure it out, 2 years.
if it's
No,
right
because
now,
if we move them, we're going to move them before.
And you're going to need to buy more buses.
please understand that buses are not like a regular vehicle that you just go and you buy off the lot. You have at least minimum 6 to 8 months before you get them on your fleet. And that's expediting the financial part, and hopefully you have a good vendor in place, but minimum 6 months, and that's pushing it. You need 6 to 8 months on buses to be on the fleet.
Victor, I can ask you a question. Are you part of the plan that when we start building Figueroa, which is coming up pretty quickly, we're building it in their parking lot? We're parking the teachers away from the school, and we're transporting them to the school. Are you aware of that? Okay, that was the plan that was brought to us.
And nobody spoke to the
That was brought by
transportation
Mr.
director?
Velazquez to us. That whole plan is we're moving people around, and we made plans that when Figueroa starts and they're already in the final drawings, it's being built on a parking lot. So administration's going to build park somewhere else, and they're going to be transferred by bus to the school.
That's teachers.
Okay, that I didn't know, but I will tell you that
That was good. They told us.
I did not know about that, but I did have a meeting with Mr. Velazquez today about talking about all these being based on the operations where we were at, you know, having a meeting just on my part to be able to see what's going to happen all the way from the top, which is Cigarroa High School, then trickling down to Cigarroa Middle School, and then, of course, all the way to the elementaries, even to Dovalina. So that's something that me and Mr. Velazquez have been talking about, but that I didn't know about.
Well,
So in your discussion then, because I'm glad you're telling us that you had a discussion,
Yes.
have you all come onto some kind of plan for all of this? As far as how many routes are going to be included that are extra, and have you thought a little bit more about that?
We're trying to get ready for the board meeting on Tuesday, but to be honest with you, Dr. Rios, it's very tough based on so many scenarios being thrown out by the board that we don't know what plan to be able to present to you guys to have an
And
answer.
just to correct it, it's not being thrown out by the board, because this is the presentation given by, if you weren't here, I don't know, but administration gave it to us.
Yes.
I'm just repeating what the plan was.
But why wasn't he part of that plan?
He was at a
He's a
meeting with the
director.
They
LCC.
require his transportation.
I don't
Yes,
know.
and again, we were thinking on a shuttle service,
Right.
not necessarily yellow buses. There's many ways. Nothing really
Metro
compares.
buses.
Metro buses and-
There's nothing that can compare to the cost of a portable seating. And even if we need to use a couple of custodians in the morning that have a driver's license with a shuttle
Wait a minute.
service, we
The
could always do
custodians
that.
are The custodians are busy in the mornings.
No, I'm
It's
saying.
just a picture of the whole thing.
Yeah, it's maybe an additional. an
We're
additional-
starting school and you're moving, but we're moving that you're
It's not
gonna
starting
use.
this next year.
We're not,
Good.
and so maybe I think we're getting ahead of ourselves, you know,
Yeah,
again,
So-
you're not gonna
We're
break
not
ground.
getting ahead of ourselves. We're actually looking at things that are going to.
No, but you're already
If-
saying where are we gonna put the kids right now?
No, I understand, but we're not getting ahead of ourselves because we're actually discussing if it's profitable or even if it's, even if it's healthy for us to go into a consolidation. That's why this discussion is taking place. And I would really appreciate, all of you giving me your expert advices because it is something that is going to impact my district. So this is important to me.
Sure,
So that's
no.
why I want
But
to have
it's
this.
I understand that, but it's important to us too because it affects our district.
The ahead of ourselves part is that we're considering, we're looking, so the timeline is that we need to decide on consolidation or not consolidation between now and next week. And the reason for that is because if we don't decide that between this next couple of days, I'm not sure what's going to change between those days as far as I'm concerned, but as far as everybody's concerned. But there's going to be a number of situations in there that, yes, they're going to cost us. It is because by naturally it's going to cost us, number one, and number two, there's going to be several situations in there that are going to save us. So those two parts of this equation need to be done accurately. We need to figure out what absolute costs are involved. And the second part of that, it's also going to be felt by the residents in that area. There's absolutely no way whether we do it there, because the part about those kids are going to be moved around is they're going to be cows, like Mr. Garcia was saying, cows are going to be moved around no matter what. The question is when. And so the question is that we're going to have a whole year to think about how we're going to get them done so that Mr. Resendez can have, like he said, he mentioned appropriately the last time, so he can have a pulse on all those kids that are away from his campus during this whole process. I think that's the most important part for me right now for him, because whether we go, like I said, one way or the other, yes, there's going to be cost, but they said it's just a matter of what and when and what's the amount.
And I think if we can get Ms. Ramirez to, she has that documentation as all these moves that we're trying to, it's still millions of dollars cheaper than building a portable city.
Definitely.
Period. And we're saving the taxpayers' money. So all these ideas was because of that. My idea, and I'll go back so we can finish up this, is make this presentation because regardless of, we have to go back to the community and sell it. But superintendent, if the superintendent and the two principals are not aboard,
I'm not saying that.
yeah, then tell us now so we can just stop this and either see what we're going to do with administration, or they're going to follow the board lead, or they're going to do whatever they want. Because that's already happened with one school, and they started telling the parents, well, you call them because we're against it. Then, you know what, you're not a team player, you're an individual. And you know what, we don't need those. We need to be all aboard. But you have to give us your ideas because you have to deal with
And I
them.
agree with that, Mr. Garcia. The only thing is.
The only question is what's best for the students.
Exactly.
That's
And
all.
we're not saving money, we're doing the best thing that we think right now.
Number
Because
one.
the property for your school, in my opinion, is just too small to fit you comfortably. And they don't have places to run and all that. That's my concern. In your area, if we could switch them over, that'd be perfect. You go to over there for 500, that'd be perfect. You have a little parking lot and you can have the other school. That would be
Just gonna say
perfect.
one thing. Okay, so before we start this presentation, the only thing that I can honestly tell you, to me, this discussion is very healthy because we are trying to find the means and ways of thinking of our children first and foremost. You know, these discussions going back and forth. For the record, I just want to say that what we're trying to do is have these conversations and push out that I do understand that this is not something we are rushing ourselves into doing. We're actually having these discussions because we care primarily of the academic success of our students. So with that being said,
Yeah, exactly.
And I do want to make.
And we may not always agree.
Right.
But I think that in the end, the healthy discussion is trying to make each other understand that while a school this size is beautiful and yes, could be iconic for this, for the area. There are lots of things to consider when you're moving things around like that. And I think that not taking it lightly is
Yes, and also
appropriate.
take into consideration that we have to also agree to say that UISD does it, and it's proven that they're successful with big campuses,
not
como,
UISD.
you know. Anyways, but we cannot say that it's not doable. And we are not saying that we are UISD, because we are the place to be, we are LISD. But what I can tell you is that if that is the route we take, the only thing we ask from our whole entire administration is to support us, push it forward in a positive manner so we can have a positive transition. That is all I'm asking for.
And Mr. Garcia, I'd like to make a comment. On our part is to give you the information, the best information that we can give so that you all can make a decision. Whatever you decide, we're going to go forward with it.
Well,
they're giving, hold on, I just like to make that point in the sense that these are the educators that are in the buildings, and they know their kids best, they know their communities best. So all we can do is give you our thoughts. Whatever you decide, we're going to go forward and we're going to make the best of it. That's what we're entitled, what we're supposed to do.
What
for you.
staff,
And
then
that's,
what staff
and that's what the
recommendation?
principals told us. No, and that's what the principals told us.
Yes.
They're both of them, and I appreciate that in
So-
both of
So
them.
we got the presentation, we're gonna be here talking all day.
Well, we already had, that was it.
Do you want me to run through the same presentation that I did Tuesday, or?
Oh, did you already see the presentation?
Yes.
Oh, then that's fine, I'll look through it myself. It's just, I know they had concern about the pre-care, the kindergarten by the
Yeah,
fifth grade.
just to
which I-
switch them around. That's it.
Yes, sir.
We talked about that.
So,
And
yes.
the only other concern we had was making sure that if we went to the big size school, that there was administrative offices on all ends of the building.
And that the libraries were big enough to, the size of the libraries have to be like twice, in other words, 2 times that size, because of the amount of kids that if you're going to be scheduling classes, you have to make sure that this other class is not waiting, because now there's a line of classes. And since Accelerated Reader is one of the big initiatives of the district, it's not just what we think that a main central library is going to do, but a library that's equipped to handle 1,300 kids and scheduling of classes. That, I know Ms. Pice is here, and there's more conversations, but those are things that I know that can be dealt with when the final plans are being made.
If I may just comment on that, on the actual plan. So what I have in this presentation is a schematic design, which is conceptual in nature. And as far as the inner workings of all the rooms where you know the different grade levels go and all that, we still have, that's part of design development. So I still need to meet further with the principal and his staff and iron things out. But it's sort of a modular design to where it won't be difficult to move. In other words, it's kind of interchangeable except for the major elements like the gym, the cafeteria, the entrance, that kind of thing. As far as the classrooms are concerned, we have flexibility.
Yes.
And actually, the design should be flexible in the long run, because you never know. If one grade's going to be larger than another grade, you don't want to have.
Well, at the elementary, they're all 22 to 1.
Exactly,
But the size requirements for the little ones, they need to be larger because they sit on the floor. And so when we were talking about the rectangular spaces over here, they are smaller than the rectangular spaces over there. And then we did talk about kinder being close to 5th graders, which is not a healthy thing at all. So those are things that I know that can be ironed out, as well as the library situation. And I know that Ms. Pice, I know that one principal really can't make that decision about that, because they haven't had the experience of being in a school that large. But I would say that the scheduling of classes is one of the main things that needs to be looked at.
And we'll meet with the with Ms. Spice. We'll meet with food service. You know, we meet with the athletic department. So we're going to get feedback from everybody.
Should the
This is sort of
consolidation
like a footprint And so it's like an outline, and then we start developing the detail from there.
I liked it. So,
Thank you.
may we proceed, Mr.
Please,
Garcia?
thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. I know we have you all.
Well, he's
over the
not
place.
done.
Beautiful design.
The ROTC?
Thank you. That's what I'm here for.
You want to go to the next one?
Yeah, we need Nixon.
Okay, so number 10, discussion and update on the Nixon High School or JROTC and vocational buildings redesign projects. Yes, sir. Continue.
A much simpler discussion. Basically, we're bringing these two options for, hopefully for approval at the next regular board meeting. And as you might recall, we originally presented an option in which we were swapping around this area, the ROTC within the same space.
Yeah.
So currently, the ROTC is here, so obviously the first option it was to kind of swap the area and build the ROTC in this section and develop the parking lot on the upper side and have the two vocational buildings on the northeast corner of the campus. At the last operations meeting, we were directed by the board to bring, another option, and it's basically what Mr. Cavazos developed, and it's an option that includes the same two buildings on the northeast corner of the campus. However, the ROTC now is located right next to them. Now, the intention of this is just to allow the area that is right next to the band hall to be a flat area that can be double used as parking lot and a marching pad. The only difference between the two approaches to this particular design is that this option requires for the projects to be phased out. So in other words, we would have to build the vocational buildings and then demolish the existing vocational, because again, we have to continue with the programs, and then eventually move the ROTC to that location. And lastly, demolish the old ROTC building. So that's the only difference between the two designs. We were asked by the board to explore this option, and we're going to seek for approval at the next regular board meeting for one of the two options.
I think that, just my opinion, I think the ROTC building with the rest of the campus and not by itself, it just adds for the whole campus as a whole, than separate by themselves. I think.
Well, even though
they're going to build a little later, but it just looks so much better.
And
it's closer to everybody,
right?
The management piece.
And thank you for letting me know about the band requirements. I know that parking lot where ROTC sits right now is not going to be enough for them, but it's something, and it creates more independence, because right now, as we speak, there's kids in the front of the band hall or the band area practicing under the trees.
Yeah.
And there's no set way for them to, they have pockets all over campus where they practice, and I think this will give them a little bit more independence. Yeah, obviously, they still have to do the whole practice routine at the football field.
Because it's not 8 yards.
Right, exactly. But they used to do that at the baseball field, and then it was affecting the baseball team also because they left a bunch of rut and all that kind of stuff in there. So I think in this manner, it's not everything that they might need, but, it certainly considers them to have a full area in there within which to do something at. And I was always going to ask you, I know Colonel Fegan uses the back area of that parking lot to practice. Does he have, I think if you cut that building or the parking lot in half, does it equal to the area and those two parking areas right there? I think so, right?
I'll put it to you this way. He gave us a dimension for outdoor area, and we're exceeding that.
Okay, good.
With this area directly to the right of the building.
And in a way, it's good. Well, it's good because I've been in that area, and they start getting shadows from the other buildings earlier on during the day. Which right now they practice in that area, and they have the full west side of the sun hitting them. I mean, from the start to finish.
They're closer to the gym. They're closer to the fields. They're closer to
I will point out that
Cafeteria,
the marching area is 245 feet long, so that's close to 80 yards.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not 100%, but it was pointed out to me that they need 80 yards.
Yeah.
But it's close to that. I mean, if I guess the coordination, the aiding part is that, hey, we need the whole football field today, and the football team's going to go, well, we need it today, and it's just a back and forth. And now there's accessibility for them to do something while, you know, waiting to get their turn at the football field or the baseball field, wherever it is going to be. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Real quick, Mr. Velasquez, what's the cost of option one?
They're both the
Is it
same
in here?
for us. You know, the only difference is the phasing out of the buildings.
Okay.
But it's pretty
Oh, here
much
it
the
is.
same
I'm
cost.
sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you
May-
very much.
May I proceed,
Look forward
Mr.
to it.
Garcia?
Yes, please.
Item number 11, discussion and update on the auction sale of outdated classroom furniture, cafeteria equipment, and fleet vehicles that are no longer useful to the district. This item was also discussed at operations, and the last time it had to be canceled because of the auctioneer, so now you have a new date, right, Mr. Velasquez?
Yes, it is scheduled for August the 10th. And we just want to inform the board that that was, you know, changed by the auctioneer. And we're going to have the auction on that new date.
Good. 12?
Item number 12, discussion and presentation on the memorandum of understanding between Laredo ISD Juvenile Justice Alternative Educational Placement, JJAEP, with an estimated cost of $50,000. At the last committee meeting, what we discussed was to get some more details from the JJAEP in regards to the programs that they have, and one of the things that was decided was also to look into how we can support those students, and I believe, Mr. Garcia, you were also at that meeting, right?
Yes.
And so we did cut the cost from $100,000 to $50,000, so that since we have to be able to send students if there is a necessity.
Right. And the other 50,000, well, we're looking at $100,000, but we can go 50, and then if we look for the buddy system, we're going to have that other $50,000
Yes.
available to help our students out. And it's you were at the meeting, so I think it's something we really need to look at, because if we can save one of these kids or two of these kids,
I agree.
and I think it's, you know, it's worth it, and it's, you know, we can put it in a pilot program to do it. And see what we can, and see where we end up.
Mr.
So
Perez?
it's already budgeted, right, the 100?
Yes.
So then we could use the 50?
Yeah, but I don't want it to say the school has, well, we could take it from that fund, right? 50, yeah.
No, but I mean, the other 50, we can redirect it towards these other programs, correct?
If we- well, she can go back and look for it and reassign it.
And that was going to be my question. Well, how much did we spend this year, Mr. Perez? You were going to
This
get
year,
us
38,000.
38?
A little bit over 38,000.
So, and last year we spent,
76,000.
so it fluctuates.
Yes, ma'am. And our trend is, again, to minimize the assignment or placement at JJP. And we've discussed it with Mr. Molina and, of course, our campus leadership to be able to provide interventions so as to, again, if needed, we will provide the mandatory placements at LARA and keep them at LARA, work with them, work with those students. But if need be, again, it gives us an opportunity to have a little number of slots for, a little cushion.
But the year prior to the 50,000, it was 100 and some, right?
Before that, it was 210,000 that was allocated.
Yes. Was that,
So we've
was
been
that
going
before
down-
LARA?
That was.
No, for JJP.
3 years ago.
For JJAP. So we've been reducing at the
Annually.
board's direction, you know, to really look at who's going and why they're going, and
Yes.
Earlier, I asked the question regarding federal funds. And yesterday, when we were having this discussion at committee, or day before yesterday, we were talking about trying to figure out a way, because like Mr. Garcia was saying, these kids, in my mind, they go there, and by the time we send them back to the general population, they're far behind. We know we spent a lot of money in tutoring for the kids at every campus, and try to get them test ready and all this kind of stuff. Is there a possibility, and that's what I meant when I questioned it earlier, if there's a way we can use federal funds to accommodate getting these kids personal tutoring and getting them ready to go back into the general population?
Well, we can certainly look at the number of, the amount of funds that are available. Again, if we make this amount available for a buddy mentor type of transition
Right.
program, that could definitely help.
There are currently outside agencies that I know of that provide this service for employment, let's say. They get paid, it's sort of like a home health type deal. But for kids to be, that are not necessarily special needs, but that are having issues, and they get a mentor to take them to work and be there at their job, and they get, I guess, paid by the federal government, not by us or the state. I'm not sure what agency that is. I'll look it up.
Okay.
But it's sort of something that like that is what I wanted it to do. We can do it with an outside firm, that we can do it within us
In-house, yes.
to mentor them in that manner.
Absolutely. We'll explore those
School-related,
options and
so we
those
can get them
opportunities.
reintegrated.
Yes.
And see what that success rate might be, because it's going to be fairly new to us anyway.
Yes, and when the students transition back, we could also consider, as is the case in the student code of conduct, we can also consider that they have the opportunity to also be provided the flexible schedule,
Right.
so that we can arrange for their opportunity to work, but at the same time be earning credits.
And that flexible schedule is what Valdez has, and that will help them to recover. So if we do more to be able to mentor, at the same time, give them that Odyssey, what do you call it, the Odyssey ware for that,
Yes.
that will help them catch up. May I proceed?
Please.
Item number 13, discussion and presentation on the energy retail contract, including potential options to renew the current contract with the General Land Office. Mr. Velasquez?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Rios. We discussed this item in detail at the Operations Committee meeting. And basically what we're trying to do here is just to explore the possibility of renewing the contract. As you might recall, our attorney, Mr. Kaysen at the time, helped with the contract. And I believe we have a very good contract. We don't have any ratcheting or any penalties when it comes to energy. And, through this program, it's a program that benefits the school district. So again, the regulation is going to change in 2024. So we still have the opportunity to take advantage of this. As of right now, only the General Land Office is the only, entity entitled to offer these discounts to school districts. Now, after 2024, all the companies in Texas will be able to offer the same, and it will be a playing field for all the vendors. However, this still, in my opinion, represents some sort of advantage for us in order to get, a better price. So we're paying 4 cents per kilowatt hour as of right now, and basically our recommendation is that. Now, we can also open the market if that's what the board wants.
I think if the recommendation is coming for you, it's been a good contract for us. That's all you got to tell us. Thank you.
Yes, okay.
Next.
Thank you.
Item number 14, discussion and presentation on low attendance waiver requests. And the schools are listed there: Martin Nixon, Cigarroa, JJAEP, Lamar, Cigarroa, JJAEP Middle School, and Zachary. If you remember, there was a bad weather day, and so those particular schools exceeded or were at 10% or a little bit higher than their usual attendance. So this waiver has been submitted, correct? Or will be submitted as soon as the Board of Trustees approves it. So we're asking for your approval.
Thank you very much. And when it passes, if Veronica, you can get that information, do the recalculation, and then make sure that the newspaper gets it. So I know there was an article today in the newspaper which we talked about. It's true, but we're still above state, and we're still above the state and the region. But if it's an improvement, so if they can come out in paper just to make sure, that we did follow through and this is what it was.
Yes.
That 2% makes the difference.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 15, discussion and presentation of the Texas Curriculum Management Program Cooperative between Region 1 Education Service Center and the Laredo ISD effective September 1, 2019 and June 30th, 2020. We discussed this at the curriculum meeting. This is a supplemental resource that does have an alignment over the TEKS throughout the year and for all of the content areas. So we're recommending that when you get to the regular meeting, it's approved.
Tell Heki that I want a basketball shirt this year.
Okay. May I proceed?
Next.
Okay. Discussion and presentation of the data management for assessment and curriculum, DMAC agreement between Region 1 Education Service Center and Laredo ISD effective September 1st, 2019 and August 31st, 2020. This is the system that allows for the compilation of data, and it's used not only by us but by all of the campuses, and it provides a lot of other programs. So we'd like to continue recommending this program.
Next.
Number 17, discussion and presentation on the ACT District Testing Program Agreement for the 2019-2020 academic year at an estimated cost of $92,000. We had a pretty good discussion about testing for higher education or preparedness, and so this is one of the contracts that we always enter into every year. May I proceed? Item number 18, discussion and presentation on the 2019-2020 College Board College Readiness and Success Contract at an estimated cost of $81,694. And this is in regards to College Board testing, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Just one quick question.
Dr. Martinez.
Ramirez, thank you very much. Ms. Martinez, all of the high schools are testing sites? Have they all been designated? I'm sorry, I don't know who to.
This is Yvonne Degollado.
Okay.
Director of Advanced Academics.
Okay, so all of the high schools are testing sites?
Yes, ma'am.
And so all of the high schools can give the PSAT, SAT, or ACT, or no?
No, they are testing sites for the TSI, AccuPlacer. When it comes to College Board, we do it through the through PSAT, SAT, and so that is different.
But they use our facilities for testing sites, is that correct?
For TSI, we are the testing site, but for PSAT, we use our campuses.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Do they contract us when they use our facilities as sites?
Yes.
And do they pay us for those services or not?
Yes, they do get paid. The teachers or whoever is.
No.
She's asking.
Oh.
No, we do not. I understand.
So we allow them to use, let's just say, we allow them to use Nixon High School to give the ACT, right?
On Saturdays.
On Saturdays. And we don't charge them for the use of our facility. No, but we pay $81,000 to buy their test.
Something's wrong in that picture.
So
right?
my question is there any way that we could try to negotiate something with them to say, you're using our 3 high schools as testing sites and they charge, right, our students to take the exam? And I understand that a lot of our students get waivers, but they still make money because kids come from other cities to test here.
Yes.
Is there any way that maybe we can try to negotiate with them a price break and say, we don't charge you to use our 3 high schools for testing sites, and we want you to use them, of course, but we have to hire janitors to come in and clean the restrooms and clean the facilities and somebody be there to open and do all that stuff, and that's great because we want to provide the place for our kids, but we're paying $81,000 to buy tests. So either they give us more waivers for more of our kids to test?
Negotiate.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Definitely, we'll explore.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I proceed, sir?
Please.
Discussion and presentation on the Region 1 Education Service Center Library Services and Media Cooperative Contract for the 2019-2020 school year at an estimated cost of $75,664. And this is something that we do every year. This extends the services and quite a few other databases.
Next.
Number 20, discussion and presentation on the textbook vendor Zahner Blosser, whatever, for an estimated cost of 1.5. You know exactly how to
If
say
you
that.
can't pronounce the name, you can't get the money.
As we all know.
Is whatever part of the name of that thing?
Yes, what has happened is that handwriting is now back in the TEKS, and students are now supposed to be instructed, we're supposed to provide instruction in handwriting. So this is the textbook that we're going to be using. This is what's recommended.
I definitely need it.
Dr. Ramirez says good books. Next.
Okay. Yes, it is the allotment that is allocated to us for this purchase.
Good. Next.
Okay. On number 21, it's discussion and presentation to request additional FTEs for the 2019-2020 school year. And you see listed in front of you several of these that have been now made known to us because of changes in the amount of students that are going to be served. One of them is 4 FTEs for special education teachers, 1 FTE for orchestra, assistant director, and 2 FTEs for providing CTE teachers for Cigarroa Middle and Lamar Middle. There will be a couple of changes when you see them at the regular board meeting as of late. Mr. Gomez and our department have been identifying the number of students that are going to be in self-contained classrooms, so you'll see a different number at the regular board
How
meeting.
many kids did we grow from last year, Mr.?
Okay, so, good evening, board members. For the record, Raul Gomez, Special Education Director. We closed the year June 26, 2019, with 2,280 students. We're projecting to begin the school year with 2,236 students. We had never started the school year with that many students. We usually start the year with about 1,900 students. We're projecting with 2,236 students. We do have currently 117 initial evaluations out. Okay, so,
How many?
based on the pending.
170.
170?
117, Dr. Ramirez.
117, 117.
You had mentioned last year, or this past year, that didn't we approve 15?
Yeah, that's the question
That was
that I was
15
gonna
for
ask.
teacher assistants.
It was actually
Something
17,
else.
no?
15 teacher aides. Now we're asking for
teachers.
self-contained unit teachers, because this is what we're projecting, if I may. For Nixon High School, we're projecting to begin with 19 students in the autistic unit. We're projecting at DDHR in the functional life skills unit with 16 students. Caguas, 14 students in the FLS unit. Ligarde, Santa Maria, and J.C. Martin with 13 students. That's only 13 students, but in the other classrooms, we have 12, we have 11. In the south, if we get more than what we projected, we're not going to have a place to place them.
Yeah, because I remember going to one of the classes last, they were
Okay, and my next question is,
yes,
on your teacher aid, you already got those approved and all of that. I get it. But my question to you is, how many of those are due to unfunded mandates requiring X number of adults for X number of students?
All the FTEs that we have, they're based on teacher-student ratio. For example, for the functional life skills unit, for the assist unit, for the PPCD unit, we have 4:1.
Right. Yeah.
For the autistic unit, we have three students per 1 adult. And what we do, Ms. Ramirez and members of the board, every year at the beginning of the school year, we do actually head counts. We go and do head counts, and we need to reassign people, so that way we don't have to hire new staff. That's exactly what we do. We base ourselves on numbers. But again, we're being proactive now. We're trying to have these FTEs just in case that we in fact need them.
No, the question that...
Real quick, when we did before the year finished, that they had asked for 6 to 7, and we gave them all 15. So
No. I'm not, my question...
It's all paid for. It's all part of the plan.
Okay.
The question is,
Yes.
the reason for the request and the allocation is because you have certain requirements that are given to you by the state of Texas.
Yes.
That the state of Texas does not fund. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I wanted
Yes.
to know. The point I'm trying to make is, we have lots of unfunded mandates. Somewhere, there needs to be an ongoing list of these unfunded mandates, so that we can then go to the state legislature and say, you keep giving us these requirements and you're not giving us more money. So how do you want us to do this?
But and everything that we asked, everything was funded, right? The 50
Yes.
positions was the federal fund
Yes.
already
Okay.
funded.
Yes.
All right.
And
So
the
that,
the 4 that we're asking is new, but we're going to fund it through.
Yes, we have the
And that's
funding
fine.
for those 6 already.
that's
I
fine.
just had a quick question.
Yes,
Real
Ms.
quick, Mr.
yeah.
Gomez. We're going to get, just in case, 4 additional special education teachers. But then, my question to you is, are we gonna fall back with the same issue that, we needed the 15 in order to cover because we already knew the capacity that was coming in? So my question to you is, are we gonna get these 4, which, I
Yes.
agree with, but are we gonna be prepared to have the teacher aide that's gonna go alongside them? Or we're gonna have to come back again?
No.
Because I know this is grant money. This is money that you have that, or no?
No, we don't. At this point, based on the budget that we had, and going back to the original question that Mr. Garcia had earlier, with our current NOGA that we got for the fall, we got $4.6 million. From there, 4.0 went into salaries. We had to take away indirect costs, and we ended up with 356,000. Out of those 356,000 board members, 356,000 for services, we spent 140,000 for deaf education interpreters, which leave then special ed with 218,000 for the fall semester. Last year, fall 2018, we spent close to 400,000 for the fall semester. So with 218,000, we're not going to be able to cover this particular FTEs that we're requesting.
Okay,
And going back to your
And that is
original
why
question,
The amount?
we fund it. We
Yeah,
pick it up out of the
that's
local.
fine. But what is the amount that we are going to fund on the special education teachers? Because I know this is something
yes.
it's gonna impact the budget. It's not through grant money. so-
Yes. And so going back to what Dr. Rio said, that there may be a change, because
Yes.
we said that it was going to be 4 FTE for self-contained. Then based on these original numbers now, it may change to 2 additional self-contained unit teachers. We will be 6 teachers.
But how about if we're gonna need the teacher aide alongside that, that's gonna have
Yes,
to come out?
we will
That
need-
won't be funded through grant.
No.
If
we need
and
them-
So we need them for the following year.
Yes.
The teacher aides that are going to follow along.
Yes,
with these
Ms.
teachers,
Garcia, I
correct?
agree with you. Yes.
Okay. I just asked
And that will depend on the individual disability that is at that time.
Yes.
And we'll decide, or you will decide what teacher aides will be needed.
And we already approved those because last time they only needed 6 or 7, but we said take off 15 just in case they already have them approved.
Yeah, but you already hired all those 15, correct?
Those 15, Ms. Garcia, Mr. Garcia, we already used about 13 positions.
Good.
So we only have 2 positions available.
Okay.
Okay.
I understand.
Keep us in the
Thank
loop.
you.
Okay. And that is it,
Thank you.
Mr. Garcia.
The orchestra position?
It's there.
I know, but it doesn't take the point.
A quick question, Ms. Ramirez. The orchestra assistant director, the FTE, that is going to Cigarroa?
Yes, ma'am. That
Middle
will be-
school?
It's half and half.
He's
That's what I
gonna
was
do
going to ask,
dual.
if the one is half and half.
Okay.
Yeah.
That one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Real quick, the golf tournament that we're going to have this year, we're handing it over to athletics to do it. I would say you did an excellent job. You can have it if you want, but I think it should be an initiative of that office because they have the staff to do it. And all these people we're doing business with and work together, but you did an excellent job. You wanted to, you can have it, but I think we need more people
collaborative
involved
group.
except one person for what we did last year with one person was unbelievable. If we get more input, I know you should know. I helped her.
We did have
Let's
assistance
relook at that.
you're in charge of the golf tournament,
Thank
basically
you.
speaking.
You're like UISD. Yeah?
April 4th is
Unless you wanna have it in the
Dave,
fall.
talk to Veronica, she'll give you notes.
We will not leave you alone. The whole school
Good luck,
district will
Coach.
not leave you alone this time.
Good luck, Coach.
Let's see what you're.
What?
She already
I'm
gave her-
sorry?
We need to help you.
So then we
They have
talked
two
about that
events
date, we talked about that date, remember, Mr. Garcia? That if we needed to change the date so that way it
As
could all
long as
get
it
done.
doesn't conflict with any kind of state meet or
Right.
district meet or, well, yeah. So maybe right now is the good time to look at the date.
Look at the calendar.
Ms. Barrera.
Meet with Veronica and let's
It's
talk
already
about
set
it.
at April 4th, so we need to act.
Right, meeting adjourned.